Good afternoon, welcome to my channel. I have a little special treat for you today. I've actually started work on a new novel, despite the fact that I have two or three in progress needing rewrites. But this one is a little bit different because a few years ago, well, quite a few years ago now, I wrote a script called Legion, which was set during the dying years of the Roman Empire in AD 107. Was it 106? No, 106. AD 106. And basically it's... am I going to tell you what it's about? Yeah, I can tell you. The pitch is basically very simple. It's Roman Legionnaires versus vampires. So this was like it's going to be a big Hollywood movie in my head. So I just thought I'm going to write this script because it'll be fun. I actually got it to an American reader somehow that I connected with online. She passed it to Sony Columbia Pictures. The reader there passed it to their boss. They liked it. They passed it to their boss, and then they knocked it back. But it's the most success I've ever had with a Hollywood screenplay or anything like that. So I thought I would take the screenplay and turn it into a novel. That way it'll at least see the light of day, and if people enjoy the novel, then it may be optioned for a screenplay, and then I have a screenplay, so I can say, look, you can have the screenplay too. Anyway, I've written the prologue to this novel, so I'm going to read that to you today. And then I may read subsequent chapters once I get around to them. But so here is Legion. Prologue. AD 112, Rome. You smell the column before you see it. That is to say, the wind picks up the dust from 100 chisels and carries it through the forum. Marble dust in concentrated cloud is acrid and suffocating, like powdered charcoal. On this early autumn morning it drifts through the air like a shifting veil, so that the bustling scene is rendered hazy as you approach the square. The column stands erect from the polished paving surrounding it, its unmistakable phallic power only slightly diminished by the cage-like scaffold. A spiralling ramp and a dozen platforms support the weight of 100 craftsmen, kneeling, stretching, or seated on small stools, chiselling, blowing, and brushing at their friezes. Slaves sweep piles of marble shavings from the ramp as foremen bark instructions, and slave masters stand by, flails at the ready, should work flag. There is a brittle nervousness among the carvers. Today is not the same as every other morning. Today the emperor himself is coming to inspect his legacy. The hawkers and barkers around the square do a lively trade as Roman citizens stroll between temple, bathhouse, and market. There is expectation and excitement in the air, as well as marble dust. The chatter falls to a hush as a gilded palanquin is spotted making its way through the throng, which falls asunder like sheaves of cut corn. 4 muscular slaves in imperial livery carry the velvet-swathed box. They are masters at moving with knees bent to provide the smoothest ride for their precious passenger. The palanquin stops at the foot of the column as the head foreman, the short, stout Diocletius, and the crane-like architect Apollodorus, a full head and shoulders taller than his companion, emerge from the lower level to greet their patron. The box is set down and Trajan emerges, blinking into the hazy light, flanked by 2 imperial guards. He has a silken scarf wrapped around his face to protect him from the invasive dust, but his nose protrudes, and its arch is unmistakable, although the finery of Trajan's robes and his silver laurels readily identify the figurehead of empire. A seller of dried fruit leans to whisper to a vintner. "He's shorter than I imagined." The latter ignores him, as if to even nod were rank sedition. Trajan is not noted for his forgiving nature, as the northeastern campaigns have recently demonstrated. Today his demeanour is imperious but magnanimous. He waves a hand to dismiss the obsequious bowing of his foreman and architect. "This way, Excellency," says Apollodorus. "We are making good progress." "Glad to hear it," Trajan says, taking the lead, with the slender architect and the guards at the rear. Single file they mount the ramp, passing rows of workers kneeling with heads bowed. "Do stand. You must be most fatigued," Trajan says, touching the shoulder of the first carver. The man, his face grimy with sweat and dust, looks uncertain, then rises. Diocletius gesturing frantically. The scaffold creaks as all the carvers stand up stiffly, stretching aching limbs. Trajan's attention has already shifted, however. He is closely inspecting the bas-relief carvings which decorate the column, recounting episodes from Trajan's recent conquests, or rather, of the subjugation and incorporation of the proud Dacian people into the empire. Trajan stoops slightly on the third level to inspect the straining calves of a centurion pushing a cartwheel to release the vehicle from a boggy runnel. Wonderful! I can see the tendons beneath the skin. This is excellent work. A carver beams but leaves the thank yous to his foreman. You are most welcome. We engage craftsmen from every corner of the empire, crows Diocletius. Trajan pauses, turning. Even Dacia? Diocletius nods. Especially Dacia. We wanted it to be accurate. Trajan nods. He seems pleased, but his face quickly falls back into a thoughtful cast. He is not a man given to transports of joy. As they climb higher, Apollodorus, who is approaching his 60th birthday, wonders if Trajan is planning to squint at every single bowman, orator, or ox cart. His feet ache terribly, and he hasn't eaten since sunrise. Nodding to himself, Trajan approves his own likeness, examining a panel depicting him addressing the massed legions at the edge of the forests of Sarmizegethusa. Then a strange sound interrupts the expectant silence, the sound of a chisel at work. Diocletius tuts and edges past his emperor. Some of the men are a little too keen, it seems, he offers in passing. The inspection party progresses to the upper half of the column, Diocletius scouting ahead for the errant carver. The workers stand against the scaffold, facing in for the most part, but one does not. Here, in the part of the column which represents the second Dacian campaign of AD 105 to 106, someone is still at work, feverishly scraping at the stone with his chisel, tapping its base with a small mallet. Small precise movements are belied by the carver's strange muttering monologue. He is a hunchback, his spine forced into a posture resembling a longbow at full stretch. He looks Arabian, and his speech has the furtive, unending quality of a conspiracist. It is hard to see how old the carver is because he is swathed from head to foot in dark robes, only his eyes visible, despite the unseasonably warm autumnal sunshine. You! Put up your tools and kneel in the presence of your emperor, shouts Diocletius, his face reddening. At first the man ignores him. Then, as the head foreman approaches, staff at the ready to administer punishment, the Arabian turns from his work, still muttering, his eyes gyring madly. These orbs have no earthly target, at least none that the carver can settle upon. He resembles a man tracking the movements of multiple fruit flies. The wind blows the cloth from the hunchback's face to reveal a dark countenance, the skin crisscrossed with old scars. Something terrible has befallen this man, who now turns fixedly back to the frieze. "Stop that, now!" yells Diocletius, as one of Trajan's men lunges for the carver's shoulders. Tools clatter to the ground, and the guard holds only the Arabian's dark cape. Still muttering, the errant carver grabs the wooden guardrail and leaps from the column, swinging down to the level below, kicking men asunder and running pell-mell along the boards. Before anyone can react, the mad Arabian has exited the scaffold and is slap-footing across the square, still muttering inanely. The crowds part to let him through, afraid of his mania. Trajan's astonished gaze sweeps from the escaping carver to his handiwork. Between panels showing fields being tilled and kneeling Dacians welcomed into empire, the Arabian has created a scene of terrifying conflict. A legion of Roman soldiers in phalanx stand shoulder to shoulder with fighters in different armour, both armies facing enormous humanoid creatures with claws and fangs who appear to be cannibalizing them. Incisors more wolf-like than humans sink into jugulars, blood gouts, innards slop forth. Although at the back of the battle scene Romans and their allies form serried, disciplined ranks, at the front all is chaos. This is not a battle scene, it is a massacre. Trajan's nose almost touches the stone now. He has located his own likeness, a minute robed figure standing on a high parapet with his generals, surveying the melee. As he stares at the carved parody of an emperor presiding over his army's slaughter, veins stand out on Trajan's neck. It is the only sign of emotion he betrays as he turns stonily to face his architect. Apollodorus, I trust you did not approve this panel? The architect shakes his greying head vehemently. Absolutely not! Diocletius, says Trajan with deceptive calm, what know you of this? Nothing at all, are you sure? Trajan is whispering to one of the two guards who accompany him everywhere. The man looks ashen. I'm sorry, Your Excellency? Something snaps in the Emperor's demeanour. "You heard me," he snarls. "Let it be him or you." The guards seize Diocletius, forcing him against the guardrail as carvers scuttle away. An "ooh" rises from the crowd below, then screams as Trajan's men lift the foreman and throw him from the scaffold. Diocletius' body flails until he smashes into the flagstones, his head cracking open like a overripe gourd as the crowd scatters. At the top of the column all is silence, save the sound of the silver pommel of the Emperor's cane. Trajan is using it to scrape frantically at his own mocking visage. The silver tip suffers more than the marble from this encounter. It is futile, the image cannot be erased so readily. The Emperor spins, his face frozen in a scowl. "Any man who speaks of this dies," Trajan commands. He turns to his quailing architect, who's backed against his own stonework. "Apollodorus," Trajan says, his voice now measured, "I'll need a new foreman. And, men, find me that Arabian." And there you have it. That is the start of Legion. But actually that's set, as the date indicates, 6 years after the rest of the action. So it's kind of a flash forward. But it sets the scene for what Trajan's like and the empire and the creation of the column and all those other things. I still have to go and see. There's a replica of part of Trajan's column in the British Museum, which I discovered quite recently. So I'll have to go and see it. That will help me to, when I do a new draft of this chapter, just to get some of the detail right, maybe add a little bit about some of the scenes. Anyway, hope you enjoyed that. If you did, let me know, because do you want me to write on? Do you want to see what happens in the rest of the book? And if you do, leave a comment, subscribe, share this with your friends, and I will see you again for a random word story this time very soon. Bye-bye.